Randy, you said there are no other, that's the only vernal pool that's on the property, the others are all off-site from the arrays?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Has the the wildlife been involved in it for?
You're reading my mind.
I don't believe it's a mapped
No, it's not
habitat.
mapped.
They are not mapped
So then
habitat.
the NOI did not need to be submitted for natural heritage, so
Oh, that's-
no.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing that I'd be concerned about is the proximity to the Coles River, and certainly the involvement of the Army Corps of Engineers of any potential impact. It looks like the retention pond, which actually would be very close to my backyard, that's one of the higher areas. I think it's about 142, 141 foot, and it basically, that piece of property slopes down into the old Siedendorf property where the Coles River comes across Wellington Street.
Is that detention or retention? Detention or retention? Do you know?
I believe it's a detention. No, we have it on our specs here. Let me show you.
Okay. No,
It is, I think it is detention because there's a spill.
Right.
A spillway.
If there's a spillway, it's detention.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was one of the comments that GZA had for the planning board, was they needed to provide detail on the spillway. How big.
Okay, but in such an array, I'm trying to alleviate thoughts that this gentleman's having. Where there isn't any construction as far as blacktop or any surface area being covered directly on the ground, all rainwater is going to percolate right in,
Sure.
so it's not going to have any effect. Am I correct in thinking that way?
No, not necessarily. The things will change out there just by cutting the forest. It changes the runoff curve number.
Absolutely.
So,
Okay.
so there'll be increased runoff, and they have provided stormwater management here in the detention basin to collect that, to control the peak.
Mhm.
So, and that's what GZA is reviewing now.
Okay.
And they're not quite done with their review. We haven't looked at that, but they do address stormwater because the panels themselves are impervious, and the rain hits it and it runs. The hydrology is going to change out there, but they just need to control it and to
Maybe
mitigate.
control it to a higher degree too, because we're in that special zone, correct?
Right, they
So,
have to, on normal sites,
Mhm.
you have to, the applicant would need to treat half an inch of rainfall over the
Mhm.
impervious surface. In this case, they have to treat an inch of rain. So, which means that they have to have a bigger detention basin.
Yeah.
So that's what they're looking at now, so to determine if the basin is big enough to handle that 1 inch of rain that falls on those arrays.
Okay. Because underneath the array is not going to receive as much water underneath the panels. And although if you have two panels like this one is going to get the water that flows off of this one, and of course it'll be grass, right?
That's right.
It'll be grass, but grass does not absorb as much water as trees.
Trees.
Right,
There's been historical situations where the water from that site, as is, has rolled right through my backyard and filled my pool up. So it's an existing concern with where that water goes. All the homes from, basically, I don't know if you know Mrs. Gray, but from her property up to William Street have had significant issues with wet basements. And I think, there's a potential for this to increase those problems.
We took into all those existing conditions into account when we modeled out the stormwater and what we had to do to
Yeah.
calculate the size of the detention basins and all the other stormwater management facilities that we provided.
one of the other comments that GZA has for the planning board is that their design has assumed a seasonal high groundwater. They actually haven't done test pits out there to definitively determine where that is. I'm not sure where that they're gonna go with that, whether they'll approve the project if they do, and then require them to go out there and confirm seasonal high groundwater and then make changes if they do. You know, when Nova Armstrong reviews, a stormwater design, we always recommend to the commissions that the seasonal high be determined before the order is issued, because more often than not, the design changes because they've assumed
Yeah.
the seasonal high too low. But, not to say they have here, but it saves time in the end because you don't want to go out there and do the test bits to confirm seasonal high, find it's different than the design, and then everything stops, because they have to redesign and have to come back to the commission. In this case, the basin, I don't believe is in the commission's jurisdictional area, but, you know, it's still under your order, so. We would recommend that it be done now, but, it's up to the planning board, it's up to the commission too. But we're not reviewing the stormwater, so it's just.
Will this detention basin eventually take on characteristics of a vernal pool or a wetland, characteristics?
Let's deal with it.
No,
No.
because what I'm looking at is that would eventually come back to us, indirectly in the future.
I'm 80 years old now.
No, because, any.
When it comes back, I won't be.
Any wetlands any wetland resource areas that are created by stormwater, and it's not a resource area protectable.
Okay,
Not anymore.
And they will be maintained throughout the project to make sure they're functioning properly, and then, Ed, correct me if I'm wrong, but after the lease is up, everything will be removed to the typical site conditions now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
We would be
so-
putting up a decommissioning bond, that would cover the cost of removing all of the equipment, and, returning the site to its, existing natural, state.
So even after the lease is over, there won't be a hole in the ground, we'll have replaced it with as current conditions.
Well, we would either remove it, or, if the landowner wanted to purchase it or something like that, I mean, it's already there, so, I mean, but there would be money set aside to remove it in the event that we wanted to remove it, is what I'm getting at.
So you haven't done a peer review?
We have something drafted, but we're gonna, we still need a little time to
Yep.
digest the plans and just make sure that
So
we.
we're not gonna
I don't-
settle this tonight?
I don't wanna keep coming up with comments as we we'd like to do it more, you know, make it the last set of comments
Yeah.
that
Yeah, we understand
Yeah.
that for
well,
sure.
they have to give us final maps and with roadway and, so we need a few things from them yet.
Are these the same maps that you have?
Yes, I believe so.
Yes.
Yeah, the 27, yes. Yes. Exactly. Yeah, there's a few things that layers they have to turn on and
Okay.
things
Yep.
like that.
Yep.
If it's helpful, we could set a meeting with you guys in GZA after the planning board meeting next week, so in between, so about when we're going through and we're getting those comments, taking your comments, and have sort of like a working session where we go through and make sure things are ironed out before we do this next round of submission to you guys, if that.
You've been out there.
I have, but it was real targeted inspection, I may take another run out there and take a look at the access road.
Okay. And when you
Just
do.
not tomorrow.
And when you do, Marty,
Yes,
can you let us know?
sure, yeah,
Okay.
I can do it.
I'd love to be
Whenever you
there
want to,
if possible.
yeah.
Said I'd love to be there if possible.
That's what I'm pointing
Yeah.
at you for. Like-
I travel a lot, but, with a little bit of notice, I can make it happen. I was out there Sunday snowshoeing, so I will.
Yeah, give me something.
That's a good idea,
Yeah, if we can,
yeah.
happy to do it at your guys' offices or GZA's, and then, we find it easier just to go and get everything out on the table and work together on this stuff,
Yeah,
just
I
to
get it.
tie up. When we're at this point where we're just sort of going back and forth on little things, it's just easier to all be
Mhm.
there and figure it out,
We meet here to town hall.
Sure.
if they'll allow us.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any comments on this project? Negative or positive?
I move that we continue it to,
Absolutely.
214.
2/14.
Valentine's Day.
Is it 215?
That's Valentine's Day, it sounds like.
Every day's Valentine's Day.
Oh, come on.
No day's Valentine's Day, is that better? Just ask them.
Oh, it is
Not anymore.
14, that's,
Go on.
I don't know, that's gonna,
I second it.
Nowhere I'd rather be on Valentine's Day than here, right, with you guys.
So we'll try and set
I
something.
have trouble hearing if you're not close enough.
Last week.
All right.
I don't have a problem come here on
Thank you, Fred.
Thank you.
I won't be here on the 14th.
Next week.
We gotta do it on the 14th?
What?
The meeting is on the
I'm
14th.
actually out of town.
No, your
Next
next
meeting.
meeting will be on the 14th, okay.
Second Wednesday of the month.
Put it
All
up
right.
with the
The week
two?
after we should.
Easier?
Yeah.
So it doesn't go
I'll bring it
crazy
up
on
with
you?
Peter, next week, and then I come pretty frequently,
Okay.
so.
So you're
Okay,
going
sounds
to
good.
I made the motion to continue.
Just as soon as you
I'll
can,
second it.
the better.
Yeah,
Get
of course.
that.
All in favor?
Things that, things, Jim.
Absolutely, yeah.
We'll get that on the books pretty soon, for sure.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Miss.
That's to go in that folder too. Those maps.
See what tonight's
Right.
Antone Rodericks is here.
As far as these enforcement orders go, the snow is up to your knees,
Yep.
ground is frozen.
Might not be tomorrow.
It's foolish to even talk about it.
I just was here in case you needed me. I'm here.
We've got 4 different enforcement orders, they all get the same problem, Tony.
Yeah, oh, okay, I just wanted, yeah, I'm here.
I put them down because they continued.
Yeah, you know, the
I
last
can't
time
see
I was,
wasting any time trying to discuss them.
the last time I
you
was
got a
here, you
night
said you
out?
were gonna try to get out, but
Okay.
I move that we continue the
Enforcement order.
discussion on the enforcement order for Antone Roderick.
And I'll second that. I'll move it.
All in favor?
I move that we continue the discussion on the D'Souza enforcement order,
Second?
DeRosa.
DeRosa.
All in favor?
Aye.
Duart's already settled. We're gonna see him on June of 2018.
Okay, and
Mr. Prairie,
move that we continue the discussion on the Prairie.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye. No, you're the last act.
Steve Gilbert, Press FG Associates.
Donald sent the Miller, Cynthia Miller on Lewis Street.
Oh, I brought you some extra pens. Sorry.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Page is that?
Did we ever have
You got a
that?
map or something?
Did we ever have that with the, yeah, we do.
You should have plans, huh?
They came
Huh?
down.
As far as I know, you have plans. You don't have plans?
We have plans for this project, Charlie?
What?
Do we have plans for this
Yeah,
project?
we do,
Okay.
but you can use his plan.
Okay, let's use his plan.
We're here for you for an RDA for 2161 Lewis Street. We've got an existing home with a septic system behind the property. The existing septic system consists of a tank and a leaching area. The leaching area is about 50 feet from the wetlands. You can't change
This is the first place on, as I'm coming down Lewis from Cedar,
Yeah,
this is the first place on the left.
no, it's several houses up. I'm gonna say maybe 3 or 4 houses up.
Okay, here it is.
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Well, that's, yeah,
But
that's,
it's the only house on the street.
no, that's
No,
not right.
they're just showing it, yeah, they're just showing, that's the only they're showing.
We're probably,
That's okay.
I might be able to help you here. This locus map.
That's right up against a well field.
Tough to even read that too. It backs up to it basically, yes. Yes, so the existing system is behind the house and it's about 50 feet from the wetlands. We cannot change the plumbing, so we're gonna come out of the rear house like it is right now. We're gonna go into a new 1,500 gallon tank in a pumping chamber and pump it up to the side of the driveway towards the front of the property, in front of the house. By doing that, it'll put the leaching area about 140 feet from the wetlands, as opposed to 50. We're in front of you because the proposed septic system and, this proposed tank and pumping chamber are gonna be within the 100-foot buffer, roughly 75 feet to the wetlands. And with the associated grading for those tanks, it'll be to about 70 feet from the wetlands, so that's basically what we're dealing with. But again, now we're moving the system so it's 140 feet from the wetlands. Obviously, we've got a siltation barrier that's gonna go between the construction area and the buffer zone, which is about 60 feet from the wetlands. So basically, we feel like we're improving things quite a ways from what they are right now. The leaching area, I don't know if you can quite make it out, but it's right here. It's right up to the buffer zone, that box that's right up to the zone, it goes right up to the incline right there, is what's currently there.
How long's that house been there, do you know?
Oh, it's gotta be there at least 15 years.
Yeah, I would say less
At
than
least-
20. I would say in the 15 to 20 range, I'm
Yeah,
guessing.
that was before the 100-foot zone buffer went in.
Isn't there, Moses property?
Okay, so you're still using the same tank? or
No,
you-
we're proposing
No,
new
no,
tanks.
a
No,
new
they
tank.
require,
That's the new-
yeah,
that's the
they
new
require a
tank.
new tank. You can see the old tank is closer to the house right there. There's the old tank.
Yeah.
They require a 1,500 gallon tank now, so we need to put a new tank in, and we
Okay.
need to pump it to get it around up
So,
towards
okay, so
front
the
yard.
tank is gonna be here,
Correct.
but that's enclosed,
Yep,
that's sealed, so
that's sealed.
then it pumps the water out.
Yeah, then it goes into a pumping chamber right there in front of it. There's
Yeah,
another
I
pumping
see it.
That's
chamber,
the pump.
and it's
This
gonna
is
bring
the
it
new,
way up there.
this is the new tank.
That's
No,
new-
no, the
that's new
tank is
field.
here.
No, Jim,
No, this is the tank. This is the
that's
tank,
the old tank.
that's the field.
No, you're both right. The old tank's right here. You can see this arrow right here? That's the old tank.
That's the old tank.
But the new tank is right beyond it. Jim's right also.
Yeah.
New tank's here, and then the new pumping chamber is gonna pump it, and here's the leaching area up here. So that's what we're talking about.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, so that's a great improvement.
Definitely.
Okay, so siltation fence?
Clothesline right there.
There is a code there.
Okay,
I'll make a motion, we issue a determination of applicability, negative determination of applicability for this project.
I'll second it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You're all set.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'll take that back. You don't need to